Hello, everybody. Welcome to my weekly meltdowns coverage of Survivor 41. We are here tonight to talk all things episode 5. I have so many notes tonight, and I can't wait to get to it. Beth, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing really well. I'm really excited. First of all, I have something to show you besides my
Oh.
messy blanket back here. Ready? They're little ghost lights. You
Ooh, I
can't even
like it.
tell, but it's little ghosties. It's a spooky podcast with all the
Spooky.
lights fully on in my apartment.
I love
Ooh.
it. I love it. I'm in like full Halloween mode this month with like
Love.
watching like Michael Myers movies, rewatching The Walking Dead, watching You season 3. Like I've watched so much murder this month, and I love it. But let's talk about
Great. That's great, Tyler.
let's talk about Shannon and Ricard murdering their alliance, their allegiance to each other,
Can we just
because
be 100% honest? That's you and me if we were on an island together.
I was actually thinking the same thing.
And that's because you and I are the same person. Like like
Yes.
literally, you and I would sit there on the island, and I would sit there, I'd be like, "So you're gonna give me back my advantage?" And you'd be like, "Why would I?" And I'd be like,
Yeah.
"Because you said you would." And you'd be like, "Then you don't have an incentive to keep me." And I'd be like, "But you said you would."
Right, exactly. It's kind of like that meme of like the Spider-Mans like pointing at each other. They both realize that yeah, exactly. Like they both realize that they've like caught each other and there's no kind of like workaround for it.
Yeah.
So that's why I think ultimately the wrong move was made tonight. I think Shan should have pulled the trigger on Ricard. Like maybe not before that conversation happened, but certainly after that. If I'm Ricard, like there's no way I'm trusting Shan anymore after this. At least like 100%, maybe like 80%, but like
Yeah.
that conversation will always be in the back of my head that like she tried to check me like this, just like she did JD the week before. So
Well, I mean, that's the best part is like, Shan, girl, you're going about it the same way with your co-conspirator about this. Of course he's going to be on defense. I would argue Jeannie should have done her shot in the dark, because could you imagine? Because first of all, her at the end of the day, when it's a 3-person vote, you might as well. You might as well do your
yeah,
shot in the dark, because you might as well lose your vote, because if it's 2-on-1, whatever. And if you
yeah,
were one of the 2 votes for the other person, all you're doing is basically risking your vote in order to potentially get safety, right? So in this situation with her, if she had done the shot in the dark and say she got immunity, then it would have been Ricard going.
yeah. I totally agree. Like that, and that's a good point. Like I totally forgot. Like with everything going on tonight, with all the advantages and stuff, I forgot about the whole shot in the dark thing until Jeannie mentioned it in her exit speech or
Interview.
whatever. Yeah, she should have done it. I don't understand like why not, you know. Maybe she thought that she was staying, I don't know.
If if you think there's a pretty good chance it's 2-on-1, you might as well.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing too. I was kind of hoping, like, what if Shan had used her idol, and Jeannie had gotten immunity? Like, Ricard would have been like, "All right, I'm leaving with your extra vote." And that's the
Hmm.
thing. Like, Shan, I think ultimately doesn't keep Ricard because of him. She keeps him because he has the other advantage.
Yeah, I think so
Otherwise, it
too.
goes
But
away.
like, so she has her idol. Like I really think that she should have just played her idol here. Like now that we have like the merge possibly looming, I really feel like once they hit the merge, Ricard and Shan are totally just gonna like peace
Totally.
out from each other. Go to like different alliances that like need numbers going into the merge. It's that like very intentional, like Matt Singh, to reference
Yes.
Survivor Philippines, your favorite. But it's really a thing, you know, like Malcolm and Denise said, like really like ding down your tribe to like that remaining final 2. And then like if you can stick together, great. But like I just don't see a scenario where they're gonna stay loyal to each other once the merge hits, especially after Shan has like given all this info and all this trust to Liana at the summit. But
I do
sorry,
think
my
it'll be
mind's just like going
interesting.
all over the place.
She did say to Liana, "If I'm not here, don't trust Ricard." So I do feel like,
Hmm.
to a certain extent, since they'll both be there, I
That's
think she
true.
and Liana, I think Liana will become her number 1, but they'll always be kind of like Is Ricard with us or not? So I think it'll be a trust until the trust is broken kind of thing.
That's true.
But before we continue on, let's say hello to all the people in the chat who waited so patiently for us to get going tonight too.
Yes, we are having
So
some technical difficulties,
the
if you will.
difficulties were very technical. That's what was up.
Yes.
No. So
Yes.
thank you once again to our mod and amazing patron, Matt Henning, who's in the chat. Pokemon, welcome on in. We also have Joseph Boza. Joseph Boza, how are you doing? Adrian Celeste, always good to see you here. Doc Chunk, welcome on in. Kyle Smith saying Beth is amazing. Tyler's just fine. Well, Kyle, you branded us that way.
Kyle's are like my friend that we went to Thai that one time, but that restaurant is now closed, which makes me very sad. But Kyle is the one who made our amazing branding, so thank you for joining. This is Kyle's first season watching live. I have finally converted him after being friends with him for like 10 years or so. So I'm happy that he's loving this season. Yes, exactly.
We have Devin who's saying really nice things about he watches our podcast more than RHAP. Listen, we love RHAP here, but I mean, we also love that you love us as maybe a little bit more. We're happy for that.
There you
go. Thank you for saying so. RD Cobrex. I'm so sorry if I don't know like your real name, but welcome on in for the Totally Agree. Appreciate that. Anybody else who I'm missing? Design. Welcome on in. Heather Jean. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. And of course, anybody who is lurking in chat, has us going, or was watching this back, we appreciate you so much. So we have a lot to break down tonight, Tyler.
I know, right? Like, so I kind of want to segment it into like talking about the different tribes, if you will, to kind of like organize all of our crazy thoughts, because so much happened in this episode. Like, I can't believe this episode was only an hour long, because it felt very like Australian Survivor in terms of like the length and like how much game we got, how many choices were made, and even on the Yellow Tribe, we've got some really interesting stuff going on. So let's start with that.
Before we say this, I want to preface something.
Sure.
Okay. I am thankful that production, I know that it was a sketchy first couple of episodes, but I'm thankful for the changes, for the advantages and stuff. I know that I've been more of a champion than a lot of other people, but it has produced better social gameplay and more like interesting gameplay. And this is what happens when you recognize the changes that you have to make. Yes, it was a little front loading and the third episode was awful, and we all know that. But look at how much, even on a tribe where everybody knew Jeannie was going to go tonight, how exciting it made it because of all the advantages, right? And how exciting it made it because good social players were the ones that were navigating all of those different kinds of things. So I'm here for all of the it's a balancing act of trusting your cast and trying something new to spice it up. And so far, I think it's really working.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like I was pretty thumbs down. I was a naysayer like on all of these things for like the first 3 episodes. I wasn't on last week to say that like last week I thought was a superb episode of Survivor. And that's because there really wasn't any advantages. Like it was all like just kicking back, trusting your cast, and we got this amazing blindside in JD. And now I feel like we have like the advantages, but we still have good stuff going on. And I gotta say, like, I really love these smaller tribes to start out. I wish Survivor would do this every season, because like the squeeze is so tight when it's just 3 people on a tribe, and there's like an extra vote and an idol and like possibly a shot in the dark too. So many like elements that can like mess up this plan, which should be so simple at 3, but it is just so complicated. I can't wait to talk about it all. But I'm now excited for the direction of the season, where I was kind of like poo-pooing it earlier.
I will say this. I don't care so much. Like, it looks like there might be some kind of twist with the merge, quote unquote, next week. So I'm excited to see what that potentially could be. But what I'm more excited is, I hope, and this is a hope, I hope that they don't add too much more into this game, right? I really hope that if it is, it's like a normal immunity idol somewhere out in the woods or something like that. That's just like something we're used to, that we're like, okay, great, we understand, blah, 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 blah. Because we're used to what they're going to do when they go to a summit. We're used to, okay, now the idols are all activated for the 3, which is so funny, because it was like, if there is the merge next week, like, wow, it really just happened in the nick of time for it to happen. So I just genuinely feel like there's enough things going on and people know enough information about other people's tribes that it will make it fantastic entertainment without needing to overproduce.
Right, yeah, totally. So I know like Pokemon asked earlier like what we think is going to happen based on that preview next week. Do you think it's a merge? I tend to think it's maybe going into 2 tribes instead of 3.
I think it's 2 tribes on the same beach.
That would be
So
cool.
I think it's going to be like, it's not a merge, but you're all going to be together, but it's 2
Yeah.
tribes.
I would be into that. Like I think
But I
when's
think
the
the
last
jury
time they did?
starts. I think the
Yeah.
jury starts though.
When's the last time they did that? Survivor One World, I think.
Where
Was
they
the
had
last time
2 tribes on the same beach. Yeah,
Yeah.
One World.
Yeah. Man,
Yep.
that was a long time ago. But yeah, so if that's the case, I would love to see that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start talking about the tribes and everything. So let's start with the yellow tribe, right?
Yeah.
Because I gotta give Tiffany a lot of praise. I wasn't here last week to say that like Tiffany's like physical game was getting a lot better. And now we see that she's kind of taken over Liana's loyalty. Like we saw that Liana was really loyal to Evie, and just in the span of like 2 episodes, Tiffany's convincing Liana to like look in Xander's bag. She thinks that Evie's more loyal to him than the girls and everything like that. So it's been interesting to see that dynamic play out. What do you think about all that?
Yeah, and I also, so you guys know, I was a big naysayer on Tiffany. I was like, she doesn't even understand the rules. This is episode 5, and we're still explaining the freaking idol to her. Like that is driving me crazy. I'm not gonna lie. Where she's like, I can't stand players that are over paranoid to the point where they can't pick up the pace of the game, because I kind of feel like then just be left behind. But she's doing enough apparently socially for like, in terms of her social relationships, for that to not be a big thing. So I do think that that's some like a redeemable thing I must throw towards her. I agree. I mean, watching her in the challenge last week for the where she's throwing the ball up and navigating the course and all that stuff, I was like, oh okay, yeah, okay, great. So she's really picking that up. I do think that it's interesting that she's edged out Evie there, and she's also kind of edging Evie out to a certain extent with Xander, because Xander's now going to feel like, since he messed up in a lie, that he needs to like overcommit to her. So weirdly, Tiffany went from being bottom to probably being the best person
the power
in that position. And I think Evie's on the outs now.
I think so too. And now that like Liana has this this advantage where she can like ask one person like, do you have an idol or do you have an advantage? Like and Liana knows that he has this idol, right? So I and I want to get your thoughts on this. I think the move is to just like play it simple. Just ask Xander, do you have the idol? He has to say yes. So she takes the idol. And then like, do you blindside Evie with it? Do you blindside Xander with it? I tend to think you blindside Evie.
I think Evie's, here's the thing. If you are the person who has the rising social capital, you need to, just like you would be trying to do if you were like in mergers and acquisitions, right? You try to take on something so that your stack gets higher and then you knock down a competition, right? So you need to knock down the biggest competition socially if you're rising in social capital. Because you have Liana on your side and Xander is now coming onto your side, Evie's the one. And this is exactly what I was worried about with Evie's beginning game being so strong.
You and I both called that, like that she was playing too strong, and Liana's playing a much better, stealthier version of that, and this is the consequence for that.
And I also say the same thing for Shan and Ricard. I think they're going to be the inevitable thing that blows up, and they're going to end up being like, again, the Spider-Man going like this, but then like they don't see that everybody else just capitalizes on it when they're all together. So that is also what's going to be interesting. These players who were really strong in the this might be one of the best like beginning merge, potentially the first merge boots or whatever, could be some of the most tragic that we've seen in a long time, but also the ones that we could be seeing from a mile away at this point. Like I honestly don't see Nasir going in the first couple like I would have 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I think Nasir's kind of in that Sandra spot where like you're the most vulnerable at like the very beginning of the game, and like once you hit that merge, like your threat level is like 0 because nobody takes you seriously until it's like way too late. So let's talk about Nasir, because I love how the editors hid from us tonight.
Yes,
on that idol.
That
That
was
was so
that's
fucking cool.
that was amazing because as soon as he started saying it, I was like, "Is he just adding in his own phrase because he doesn't know what's going on?" And then they're like, "Earlier, like 1 hour earlier or whatever it was," and I was like, "Oh my god, this is amazing." That's the kind of stuff that I would prefer when we're having way more advantages and such in the game.
Yeah, I totally agree. Hide it from us so that like we have to kind of like play along with the players in
Yeah,
terms of like, all right, who has this, who has what. It was just a really exciting moment, especially
totally.
when like so like I've been pretty like thumbs down on the whole like saying the stupid phrase
Oh, I
at
love
the
it.
challenge or whatever. I know you love it, but like it just like gets too cheesy for me. But like they played it well today.
It
And
was really
then
good, and I just love the way Nasir did it, which was like he clearly was like a little kid who had memorized the speech and had to. So he's like, "I am like a confused go on AstroTurf."
he's like reading his like the palm of his hand that he like wrote down.
Yeah, so cute. It was so adorable. I have to say, I think Nasir is one of my favorite people on the season. I don't necessarily like him as a player yet, but I every time he's on the camera, I can't help but smile because he just has such a warm, beautiful presence about him that I can't help but root for. I'm like, I love you, Nasir. Good
It
job.
reminds me a lot of Ty from Survivor Co. Wrong. Like that's like same type of
Yeah.
like chaotic player that people like. There's like a little language barrier, so people like are kind of like not trusting that, even though like I'm sure he's like a genuine guy.
Sure.
He just comes off as sketchy because he's not like integrating well with the tribe, and we saw that again tonight, right? So we've
Yeah.
heard like Sydney say that she doesn't trust Nasir in her previous episode. Now Danny says today he doesn't trust Nasir, and he wants to bring him in as an alliance member to kind of
Yeah.
keep an eye on him instead of like fully trusting him. So this year's definitely somebody that just like Ricard and Shan could like flip to like another group once the merge hits. And I think he would do that, and I think he would do it well actually.
Yeah. And I'm seeing a lot of talk about I want Blue to actually be in danger and all that kind of stuff. Let
hmm
us not forget Tang Dang from Philippines, who never had to
Yeah.
go to tribal before the merge, and they ended up imploding. They all kind of went out in the very beginning. And a
Yeah.
lot of that had to do with the fact that their loyalties didn't have to be tested. They're being tested with, oh, are we going to throw this challenge, blah, blah, blah. Because didn't Tang Dang also try to throw a challenge and it didn't work out? Or was that
Yes.
Kalaba?
Yes.
I can't remember. One
It's
of them
it's
did, and
it's
Matt Singh still lost.
it's such a thing where like if you haven't gone to tribal in like a really long time, you're itching to start playing the game, and so you
Hmm.
tend to like really overplay and overthink, and you're like, should we lose Erica tonight for like by throwing this challenge, like just like all of these like crazy thoughts,
Which is
when like
why
just keep
what
it simple.
Ricard says at Tribal rings so true, which is we're arguably the most experienced players here because we
Hmm.
understand what it means to be blindsided, what you have to do to navigate to survive in this game and those kind of things. So like we will be the biggest threats going in, whether they see it or not. They might see us as like the easiest targets, but we're the biggest threats. And I completely agree with that. And there is
Yeah.
no sense of synergy besides competition wins on the blue team. And I let's be honest, Sydney, Heather and Erica are coming for you, girl, and I'm
Hmm.
with them. I need to have a moment.
Go ahead.
I so dislike Sydney. I like
Why?
for many, many reasons. I don't like her outside of the game and things that she stands for, like,
Yeah.
bombing brown people and like all that kind of stuff. But she
Yeah.
like legitimately, like, it's like last week when she had that whole like, they hate me because they ain't me kind of thing. It wasn't her just like pretending to be a villain. If you look at her Instagram, she's just a straight up bitch. Like, that
Yeah.
is just exactly who she is. So it's not even like a fun, rootable villain. It's just somebody who's like, so you can't play well. And on top of that, you're an awful human being. Cool. So like I will say that. I rarely say that kind of stuff about people because I try to give them the benefit of the doubt, but not it, girl.
Matt also points out that the beauty tribe imploded on Go Wrong as well. That's a
Too
really good
true.
example.
Too true.
Romero says that I like when Beth has a moment. Me too. A hot mess moment, if
A
you
hot
will.
mess moment.
Oh wait, speaking of, I still have to give you your birthday gift that Allison and I got you, but I'm using one of them today.
Look at how cute.
So we have My Weekly Meltdown coasters.
We should
Um,
sell merch.
we should, we should.
Who in the
Um,
chat would buy a My Weekly Meltdown coaster? But that was so cute. But like, but first of all, I think the women are going to implode because then I don't necessarily think that Erica and Heather have an alliance with each other. I think they just both dislike Sydney. And then the men don't trust each other. Like you have like a duo with Danny and Deshaun, but they don't trust Nasir. Nobody really trusts Nasir. And then like, I don't really see anybody really coming to bat for Heather because you
Hmm.
know what I mean? Like I think that she's like a very lovable, like mom like character on that tribe, but I don't see anybody being like, we have to keep Heather in this game. And I
Right.
feel like Erica, and I saw some people agree with what my thoughts are in this chat. Like, I think Erica will jump the moment she can. So I really do
Totally.
think Blue Tribe you're in danger, girl. You are going to be coming after each other.
It's a shame that like Sydney and Nasir don't really trust each other either because they could put themselves in a really powerful swing between the two girls and the two guys.
Yep.
That's never going to happen.
I just don't, but I don't even see that Erica and
And that's
Heather
more
are much
Sydney's
of a
fault, I
duo.
think.
And
Right.
that's
Yeah,
the
that's
thing.
true too. Yeah. It's more like everybody just like doesn't trust Erica for whatever reason. It kind of reminds me a lot of like how the heroes really mistreated Candace in
Yeah.
Heroes versus Villains. And
Mhm.
ultimately what happens, Candace flips and it really F's up like the rest of the heroes' chances. Truly.
Wow. What every time I hear Candace flips, I can never remember which season.
Which
Oh yeah, both of them.
right. Oh yeah.
Oh,
Well
that's my favorite thing. Candace is a hero.
I don't know about that.
Let's be honest. In real life, yes, she is.
Yeah.
Big hero
Right,
as
yes.
a medical
Yes.
professional.
But on
Um,
Survivor, I don't know about that.
uh,
Yeah, so I don't know. I wish we were hearing more from Erica and Heather, to be honest. Like they are so purple in the edit in terms of like we're just getting like no confessions from them.
yeah.
But I know it's because like they haven't been to tribal, so the
Yeah.
focus really
But
isn't there.
also,
But
they also nobody on that tribe found the idol. So there's been like really nothing in terms of advantages. So like why would we follow them for a while,
right.
right?
Yeah, that's true.
So
There's
it will
nothing
be
really going
interesting.
on with them.
There's nothing going on there. Um so let's chat a little bit about we have kind of talked about the green tribe a little bit, but before they lose the immunity challenge, is there anything there that you want to kind of discuss?
Hmm. I'd
Because
like to discuss the not before the challenge, but like right after. So like they Shan and Leona go up to I keep calling it the summit for whatever reason,
yeah,
so I'm
no, I
just gonna
like it.
keep calling it the summit. What is it really called? I keep forgetting.
I don't know.
It's like I have no idea.
Ghosties, do you know?
They're like
They
the
say, "Boo,
summit.
all in
um,
love."
but
Ooh.
So like I loved this pairing here, Shan and Liana. I just have to say like in my notes, every single week I have Liana is so good at the one-on-one, and we saw that again today. So she like gets right to work on connecting with Shan, and Shan says like in confessional that like I have like bonded with her more in like 3 hours than I have with like all of my green tribe after so many days and after so many trials and tribulations together. And it reminded me of how Liana was so good at like flipping Tiffany and like really just like disarming her as well. So Liana is like so like she is one to watch this season. I know
Yeah.
like a lot of the focus is on Shan and like her being this like yes queen player, but I feel like Liana is just like the better, stealthier version of this.
I like what Adrian has said in the chat, which is Shan and Liana are the Chada and Tiff of this season, period. And I kind of see that with
Totally.
Shan is very Tiff in terms of like being a little bit more overt with the
Hmm.
gameplay, like all that kind of stuff. But I see Liana as being kind of quieter. She's the one that kind of like gives Tiffany the like, yeah, you should go do this kind of thing. And so that's kind of how Hannah starts off her game in BB23. So I'm interested to see, does she kind of evolve a little bit more? But I am a little bit nervous for Liana as well. I kind of feel like after Evie, like I don't know why, I just get vibes that like Xander doesn't have much of an edit, to be honest, over the past couple episodes. But I feel like if Shan and Ricard have an explosion, Liana gets taken out because of that too. And I
Hmm.
feel like Tiff and Xander are going to be in the best position. So if Evie's like in the bottom of their tribe, I feel like Xander is going to reap the most benefit and Liana's going to be the like I don't know. I honestly just and not because of that particular tribe. I'm thinking grand when they're all like merged together. I feel like Xander is going to get picked up by the two guys from Blue who want to work with more men because the men are getting voted out. That's 100% what's going to happen there. And I also see Xander getting in like well enough so that he's not a threat with Ricard and Shan, but I think that he kind of takes a step back, lets the boys have his side, does his little thing with the yellow people, but I don't see him taking a huge role. And I think all the big like strategic threats throw bombs at each other in the first couple votes, and then it's left to the quieter, more strategic players who haven't had their moment to shine yet.
And it also could be a thing where like Liana, once the merge hits, like say Xander wins that first immunity challenge, which is very, very possible, right? So he wins the first immunity challenge and he has the idol on top of that Liana knows about, and therefore Shan will know about it as well. So it's almost like a
Well,
we
guess who
have
also
to
knows
push
about
a
it?
power thing.
Nasir knows about it because he had to say the phrase, and
Yeah.
everybody else who knows about the idol will know that Xander has it. It's going to turn into a situation where everybody except
Everybody
for the
knows.
Luvu people are going to know who has advantages. That's why I actually think Nasir is in a really good position when it comes to because he's going to abandon ship for Luvu and go to these other people because they have all the information. He's a likable character, and they're not going to want to come after him like Luvu will.
Where do you think he goes? Like let's say like Nasir hits the merge. Let's say
Yellow
like
tribe, for
you
sure.
think so?
For sure. I see like Tiffany picking him up for sure. And I think Xander, I think that they have that we had our idol connection kind of thing. I can see Liana wanting to interact with him, but I genuine and maybe Evie or Evie too. I really truly think that he goes over there. He still maintains somewhat of a connection with the guys. Um, but I really truly do think that he's kind of in a really malleable spot in the tribe now that people don't have to worry about tribal things and it's individual. Like I think that he would be one of those people that if he gets considered to be voted out, it's like the third tribe vote where they're like, he's too likable, let's get rid of him. But then he idles
Yeah.
it and he stays. Boom, dab, calling
Yeah.
it right now. That's what's gonna happen.
And also this could be like how Evie gets herself voted out, that like they see that like Nasir is like a better ally with an idol, so like that's like more power that they kind of have to like exchange for, if that makes any sense. So I don't know,
But let us
there's
not
so many different
forget,
ways.
Evie also has a connection with Deshaun because they did the summit together.
Hmm. See, there's a big difference between that exchange and
Oh, of course.
what we saw with Shan and Liana tonight.
What I'm
I
basically saying though is that she gave Deshaun all the information. So there is
yeah.
a moment where she could be like, I'm in trouble and I need you guys. And maybe that's something that helps her, or it could further bury her.
I think Deshaun and Danny together would use that info to bury her. Like just totally, and like we're seeing that Tiffany and Liana are mistrusting her like already. Like as soon as they hear that from Danny and from Deshaun, that's it for her. I think. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But Pokemon asks us a few times, who do we think is like winning the season now that we're in Final 12? What do you think? Before we go into the green tribe of it all.
I'm just trying to like feel things out. I'm trying, so part of this has to do with me like just trying to understand the storytelling from the editor's perspective of who do I feel like has final like five potentially winner vibes. And I feel like I just in my gut, I just don't think that Shan is going to make it all the way there, even though I would love for her to make it there. And I don't think Ricard will either. I think that they're really important storytellers for what this game was to a certain point in the game. I see people, and I feel like Danny and Deshaun are going to be similar, like uh, along the way. I feel like in my heart of hearts, I really think that like a Xander, a Tiffany, maybe a Nasir, um, and Erica's too quiet, so I don't think Erica's there. Like, I feel like those are the three I think about the most. And like, there's a part of me that's like, I love Xander. I think he's great, but could you imagine how boring it would be if Xander won this season? Like another white guy when you had
Yeah.
this cast.
Right. Right.
But I mean, he's a
I
great
really think
guy.
it's
He's a
Liana.
really rootable person.
Yeah.
But
I really think it's Liana. I think that she's like
Liana, yes,
easily, and I'm not just saying that because she's on our draft team.
no. Listen,
Uh,
she's on our draft team.
yes. Oh wait. There we go. Matt brings up a really good point here. He says Nasir, Shan, and Liana need to come together. Two of them have idols, and Liana could steal Xander's idol and just control shit from the merge on. I think that's pretty cut and dry to me. I think
agree.
that's a way to just kind of steamroll the whole season. Yeah, okay. So we have the green jungle behind us. We're setting the scene for, and I have my my new green walls behind me too. So I am just feeling the drama of this green tribe because it is crazy Looney Tunes like central over here. I like this vote should have been so easy. Yeah. And like the result of it still was, but like the process to it was just like bananas from start.
They took the hard path, that's for sure. They took the hard path.
And they took the messy path, and like you could see Ricard's eyes light up right away as soon as Shan mentioned like, oh well, give me that advantage as just like an insurance policy, when she literally had Ricard in on the plan last week to do that to JT. So like how do you not like have like red flags in your eyes when that happens?
I also genuinely feel like Shan, you have now said I want the steal vote, so you got the steal vote. Mm-hmm. Or it wasn't a steal vote, it's just an extra vote. So you got the extra vote. Yeah. When last week, great. Then you said I kind of want the idol, and then you really mastered this plan with Ricard, who did a lot of the heavy lifting of that too, of getting Jeannie to be like, oh yeah, wouldn't it be great if she said the phrase anyway? And that way we can see if the other people have it, and then we can come back. And Jeannie's like, oh, that's so great. I mean, Ricard did that portion. They talked it out. I want to give massive props to the two of them, because that's exactly the right game move. I loved it. I loved it so much. But if you're Shan, how do you not see that you having all the power and advantages and such is really bad for your game, especially when you have another savvy strategist sitting next to you? The smarter thing would have been, I want you to have the immunity idol Ricard and make him do all of that work, because then like it just was such a missed opportunity for Ricard to really put her in check tonight. And I messaged you about this. What he could have done to her is said, I'm not giving you the steal vote back or the extra vote back, because otherwise you have no incentive to keep me. If you vote me out, then the extra vote goes away and all the work that you did for it was for nothing. So like, that's a wonderful thing. And the second thing he could straight up tell her was, I'll just tell Jeannie what you did to break the pact about the idol. And then you said it today, you made me do all this this other stuff, and you're the one who becomes the target, so you better use that. And we flush the idol, and he still votes for Jeannie. So like, there were things that he could have done there that would have been really interesting. But it would have been a better game move for Shan to let Ricard take the idol, split up the power, and then you don't have much lost blood on either side, or trust, I mean.
It's weird. Like I almost feel like the intention behind both of these people to kind of like be the one to like make this power move here. I feel like both of them are looking like way too ahead into like the final three when they have to like plead their case. I feel like Ricard sees that Shan and him are like so close together, but Shan is like getting all the credit for all of these moves, when it's like just as much him that's like contributing to all of this. And I feel that Ricard is just kind of like seeing his like winner's equity just kind of like slip out of his hands into Shan's. So he's like running out of rope. He's like trying desperately to get some of that control, get some of that agency back in the game. And I just don't think that this is the time to do it.
I also think that an extra vote is better in a merge situation to hold on to than an idol. As we know, idols come and go in this game. Advantages are more questionable as to when they come about, right? And we
Yeah.
also know that there's a summit where you could potentially get a steal a vote or an extra vote or whatever all the time in this game. So if I am Ricard, I would have, like, I loved, he got about 85% of the way there, and clearly it worked. But I feel like there were things he could have done to really put Shan in check and say, listen, I love that he brought up that, like, yeah, you did the same thing to JD last week. I'm not JD, and you're not going to do that to me. But I would have flat out said to her, you're the one who wanted all the power.
Yeah.
You gave this to me. This is something that you have to do to trust me. I gave you the trust of letting you have both things and not spilling the beans.
Yeah, but it's a situation where like I feel like the both of them took it just like one or two like sentences too far.
Mm-hmm.
Like to like once you like take that toothpaste out of the tube, like you can't put it back in. And so
Correct.
that's why I think like once that point happens, like Beth, I don't care how close you and I have been like working in this game. Like once that we have, and I said this the same thing about Shan with JD like a few weeks ago. Once you
Yeah.
like vocalize that distrust, like that to me is when it's all over and there's no going back.
Because you're
Because like
always going to have it in the back of your head.
yes, exactly. So I think Shan just like uses her advantages to make sure that Ricard goes here. Jeannie's going to be very, very loyal to Shan after this, like knowing that she kept her instead of JD and then instead of Ricard too. Jeannie's not going to be somebody that's like trying to like recreate the wheel with that. Like she sees that
Also,
loyalty and
Jeannie is
she's
not a social threat. She's
right,
not a
exactly.
strategic threat. I
Yeah,
totally agree. I really think that Shan should have gotten it is just an extra vote.
yeah,
And you have the potential to get more of those from what we
right.
understand. Maybe you won't. I don't know. But at this point you have to go off the information that you assume, right? So you have to assume people have been going to this island this summer a lot, right? There's got to be other ways to get something like this later in the game. Cut him now,
Hmm.
have Jeannie, you have a lot of trust, and then you can go to Liana and say, I'm pretty sure he was coming for me. And so
Yeah,
I cut her first.
exactly. And she knows that Liana will have an advantage after the summit together.
She's
So it's
gonna
like,
have probably the same one. Exactly.
yes,
So you have a
exactly. So
wonderful
trade one
replacement.
advantage for the
That's
other,
such a good point,
just
Tyler.
more trust and more connection.
Such a good point.
Thank you.
But I honestly, I just sit back and I say, like, Ricard had the least amount of power. I know it seems like Jeannie did, but if Jeannie had sacrificed her vote and rolled it correctly, because I know it's like what, a 1 in 6 chance or
one
something
and
like that.
six. Yeah.
So I mean, honestly, you sacrifice your vote and you're likely not even going to get immunity. But let's just say that for shits and giggles, you do. Oh my God. I'm sorry. I just got excited. Can we talk about this? What if she had lost her vote? I'm just going to play a what if game. What if she
Yeah.
lost her vote? She didn't get the immunity. But Shan voted for Ricard. Ricard voted for Jeannie.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So this is
Yeah.
changing a few different things.
Mm-hmm.
When there's a revote, does Shan vote for Jeannie?
I don't think so. I think like
So
there's
she
no going
forces
back
it for
after.
rocks between her and Ricard.
Oh, wait. Say that again.
Okay. Say that Jeannie sacrificed her vote to roll
Yes.
the die, but
Yes.
doesn't get immunity.
Yes.
Okay. So then also say that, pretend that Shan voted for Ricard. Ricard still voted for Jeannie. So then we have a tie. So they have to revote.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that Shan changes her vote to Jeannie? I think she has to in this situation. Now that I'm thinking about it.
See, like that is
Because
too
otherwise it
scary.
just forces it to rocks between her and Ricard, and she didn't even have a vote. So I think that it does make sense ultimately that she has to vote for Jeannie now, as I'm thinking of
I think that
politics
she
through.
needs to know for sure if Jeannie is playing her shot in the dark or not. If
Yeah.
if she knows that she's not, then like she's good. But if she knows that she's going to, that's when if I'm Shan, just play your idol. Just
You're
play
right,
your idol.
Doc. You're right. Ricard wouldn't be able to vote on the revote because his name was one of them. So Shan would have total control.
Then don't play your idol.
Don't play it. See, this is what I'm thinking. Like, how cool! Like all these different scenarios that you have to think through in this game now that you didn't have to think through before, and you're more tired, more hungry, hotter, all the other stuff. It's a much faster paced game than it had been before. That's why I actually think this is such a wonderful, rejuvenating season in many ways. And they cast the right people for it. Like, this is, once again, you can't have a cast like HHH playing this particular game because
No.
they would be bumbling around. You couldn't
Yes.
have Nicaragua playing this game. You know, like, you couldn't have One World playing this game. You have to have the right cast members.
Yeah.
You could have the One World women to a certain extent playing it. But
Brandon was like, I love Beth's excitement.
I just get excited at the opportunities.
So I was thinking along the same lines as Matt here, because like, so say
That's
like
true.
if like you lose that trust with Jeannie, and then you're in the same problem that you're in with Ricard that we're like harping on right now. So
But that's my point, right? So that's my point. If you think that Jeannie's going to play her thingy, right? You might as she didn't know this. I'm just saying, like, if she had convinced Jeannie, do your shot in the dark, that gives her the excuse to put the vote on Ricard. Ricard votes for Jeannie. Then it turns into, did Jeannie get it or not? If she doesn't get it, Shan has the one vote to decide who goes home. Ricard shows his loyalty. She votes out Jeannie. And then she can flat out tell him, I wanted to test your loyalty. I recognized it in the moment. I wasn't loyal with it. But here we are. We start anew. And then I would also tell him, keep the extra vote.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense to me. But you're right, Beth. Like, I'm seeing how like these things are coming together, and question for you. Do you think all of this would work if there were like 2 bigger tribes to start out rather than 3 smaller tribes?
No.
I don't think so.
No.
Like, I think that it's like the perfect storm now of like small tribes that like every vote, like your individual power is like such at stake. And
we don't have a true Matt singing either, because we do have another tribe that has gone to tribal council and gotten rid of 2 different people, right? So because you have one tribe that hasn't gone to tribal, has all 6 people left. You have one tribe that has lost a couple members, but it is often last place in challenges and then just like pulls it out, which is funny. And has interesting dynamics within that tribe. And then you have this tribe that is like constantly at the bottom. So there's no history that I can think of off the top of my head that matches the intense gameplay that the 2 bottom tribes have had to play.
Yeah. It makes for a very experienced Survivor player coming into the merge.
Which is what you should have in a season 41 of this game, because it has so many people who have been watching for 20 years.
Yeah.
Put some good game players in there.
And a shorter season in terms of like days played. So
and that's
like,
why it's faster. That's
exactly,
why this game
like that's
so
really
fast.
encouraging like the pace to just be like, go, 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 dig, woman, dig. But yeah, so I'm very excited for the merge, or like whatever is coming next week. We don't know. What?
That brings up a really good point. Now, what if Ricard voted for Shan voted for Ricard, and Jeannie lost her vote, and they both voted for each other? What happens then? And I think in that situation, Jeff goes,
I thought you disconnected for a second. I was like,
you know what's great is
you were so still.
I try to pull that stuff with like Dylan all the time, and it never works. And I like the one moment I wasn't trying to really do it. I was just trying to show like how funny it would be. You were like,
I was fooled.
Is this thing on? Are you still there?
But yeah, I agree with Pokemon. Like, it's probably a situation where like it's a technicality that Jeannie would go home or something. I'd be very curious to know like how that would play out.
She'd be the only one with safety, so that doesn't make sense. I think he would have to be like, because the only 2 people who are eligible to vote are these 2, it's automatic rocks between Shan and Ricard. Because who are they going to vote for? They can't vote for Jeannie.
Would they do fire making instead of rocks if it's only 2?
Probably. Yeah.
That would be cool too. But gosh, like a Survivor, please hire us to be like the guinea pigs to talk through all of this.
I have to say this. I mean, I truly, honestly believe Survivor is a better game than Big Brother for these reasons, because there's so many variables that anybody could go home. And I'm not saying that's not the case with Big Brother. We know that is. But because it's a faster paced game, and this season even faster, and because they have anybody could go home, it's not here are the 2 people you choose from. It's anybody could go home. It invites more of these like aspects that you can change up. Sometimes it hasn't worked. In times like this, I truly think it does work, and you can play with the format a little bit more. And I think that this is why when you try to play with the format of Big Brother, like there's really not much they've been able to play with that has worked at all.
Right.
You have to
That's
kind
the
of
thing
stick
is
to the
like
same gameplay.
yeah, exactly. That's why Big Brother 10 was such a success, because there was no like twist that kind of like, so the twists in Survivor, they are really like making this game so much more layered. Whereas like
Mhm.
in Big Brother 23, they figured out how to work the twist to the majority's advantage. And that is always the problem with Big Brother
Yeah.
twists, is like very quickly, just in like a few hours, right? On the feeds, they figure out like, oh, okay, well, if Brittany gets like 100 Big Brother bucks, then we'll just vote her out because she's probably a big threat with an advantage. Like just like things like that, right? Where
Okay,
it's
we'll
so much.
put these two people in battle of the block so that they actually win and come down so that they're safe for the rest of the week. Like, I mean,
Yes,
it's
exactly.
they big brain break the game with the
Yeah,
twist. And or they're just twists like, let's do a like luxury comp that makes no sense, and you're like,
right,
cool. Like, I mean, the only and then or they give you things that just absolutely break the nature of the game, like, oh yeah, Chrissy wins the diamond powder or veto, and or like, Paul can't be put up on the block for the first 10 weeks, or I mean, it's just like ridiculous stuff, right? And again, I will just reiterate, because I do love this season so much. What I love is that they've taken things that have traditionally quote unquote worked with Survivor, but have become stagnant. Somebody grabs an immunity idol and they go all the way to the end with it, right?
right,
Like that's boring.
right.
Let's punish them a little bit. Let's make them force their hand at playing a social game rather than resting on the advantage laurels. Let's punish them for trying to get good things in this game. / let's push them to be creating like interesting and engaging television and gameplay.
A system of checks and balances that really make you think twice before exerting this power. And like, I love that at the beginning of the episode, we saw Shan, Jeannie, and Ricard decide like, should we even open this thing? Like
Yeah.
that itself is like a question that's never been asked in Survivor, because like there's been no drawback to having that power before.
Honestly, Survivor has also given us vocabulary lessons, like with fire
Fire
tokens.
tokens should never come
Bequeath.
back. Yes,
Come
I
on.
do like that word. But the fire tokens were garbage. This stuff this season is a much better version of what they were trying to do with fire tokens.
They
Could you imagine
simplified it,
all of this
honestly.
stuff with Winners at War? That would have been so good.
Could you imagine if they'd done 3 tribes for Winners at War?
Right.
But then they would have had 2 people who weren't in it. Who were the 2 people, if like you would have to have a man and a woman who didn't play? Who would be the man and the woman that you wouldn't want to play?
So I think instead of subtracting, I think we add people to do.
Add one more
Yeah,
and
exactly.
do
Which
3
like
tribes of 7.
we heard Vesapia said she would have totally done it. We heard Tina Wesson say she totally would have done it. What's like a male winner that didn't do it? Todd, I feel like could have been convinced to do it.
He couldn't have done it.
Oh, he couldn't. Well,
From what I have
enough.
heard, it's
Okay.
not a
Chris
good spot.
Underwood, like get him back on for another.
Right,
But you know what I mean.
This has been a great episode of My Weekly Meltdown.
I'm not saying I wanted Chris Underwood on Winners at War, but like I'm saying like
No, you know who I would have liked is Mike from Worlds Apart.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
he's a better version of Ben.
yes.
No, I think that there's a lot of people we could have seen. Like Cochran wasn't going to do it, so we wouldn't be able to count him in there. Honestly, put in Fabio. I would love to see Fabio try to play with a group like this. I think it would have been great.
Earl. Yep.
Yes,
no, I love Survivor Nicaragua, so I would have loved that.
Yes, Pokemon.
Yes, Aris. Yeah, true. See, like there's so many like just
Chris Doherty.
Even though I heard that like Jeff hates him.
Well, that's why he didn't play.
Yeah.
Jeff also hates Vesapia, which is why she wasn't invited. So
true. Yeah, Earl probably would have been, or JT. Have JT out there. He wasn't out there.
God. JT coming back for his 8th time to show his ass. You know what I mean? That would have been so great.
I would have been here for it.
You know what the best part about that is? Tyson would have been there. It's just like,
yes.
There's so many good things.
Yeah.
Richard Hatch is 100% never coming back. He also like, I don't know if he can leave the country.
Yeah. Bob apparently had some like not good allegations against him.
Ew.
But Tom Westman, I of course would have been a really good one too.
I
Yes.
want you to know that if Tom had been on there, there would have been a very like high likelihood that I would have just been like, why is he so fine at this age?
I know, right?
Like,
I aspire to be that good looking at that age, which is never going to
I'm
happen.
33 and will never be that good looking at any age. Like, I sit back
Right.
and I'm like, oh man, I lost it already. And he has like 20 years on me.
I know.
Isn't
I'm
Tom
like
super
looking at
heavy now?
pictures from
Now
like
you're
5 years ago, and I'm like, damn it, I'll never be as good looking as Tom. Yep,
I
my
saw
prime's already
an
done.
interview of me on like a podcast like from a year ago, and I was like, damn, I really lost it. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
Um, Pokemon says, isn't Tom super heavy now? Are you trying to make me more attractive to him?
He's thick with two C's, you know.
Bitch, you know he has a booty. You know it. That's the thing. You know he's got tree trunks for days. Oh,
All right. Well, so let's go ahead.
that's me checking out pictures of Tom Westman after this to be like, how's he looking?
Yes, into it. Okay, so let's update our draft here because we didn't get to update it last week. So we have lost our first person. My winner pick of the season, JD, went last week, and Andrew has lost his first tonight. So we have
Yes.
4 teams that are still totally intact. We have Matt, Dominic, Adrian, and Hoofland. What do you guys in the comments? I want to hear who you think has the best team going into the merge.
I will tell you who I think has the worst team, and that's Andrew.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Not
agree.
just because I don't like Sydney, but just because, I think that she's probably going to be one of the first to go in a merge situation. I think, man, it is tough between Matt, Adrian.
I think
Matt and Adrian.
I think Adrian's team is looking really, really good. It looks like everybody in the chat is agreeing too.
Matt's like Matt's team.
Except for Matt, who's like, yeah.
Matt's like, I think Adrian's 1, Matt is 2. I would say Hoofland 3, Dominic 4, us 5, Stefan 6, Valencia 7, Andrew 8. I think that's where we're at. And mad rips to Rory, who got a raw deal.
Sorry, Rory. Should have been here for the draft as
well. Really. That's what happens when Henning chooses your team.
For you. Yep. Okay, so any other thoughts before we sign off here?
No, I'm here for, I also I want to just put out there, I have loved reading the chat. I know we didn't talk too much about what y'all were talking about in the chat when we were talking tonight, but I was reading along and I love everything you guys have to say. So keep it up.
Yes, we love all the game theory. When it's just 2 of us, it's hard to be because we have to listen to each other instead of tune each other out. So it's hard to
have
keep up
to
with
listen to Tyler. It's really rough.
It's really I need some medicinal help after this.
But like Matt says in the chat, please become a patron at patreon.com/myweeklymeltdown. You can subscribe and support us for as little as $5 a month. With that, you get different benefits, like being able to do drafts and such with us. You could come on the show and be a guest. And at the very end of the day, what you're really doing is helping us out a lot, and we really appreciate it. Also consider leaving a 5-star rating, and subscribing on the YouTube channel, help our numbers here, but then also leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts to help our algorithm as well. Anything else that we can say, Tyler?
Have you I know you're on a really important episode of Lost coming up for Hot Mess Moments.
Okay, we watched and recorded last night.
I just want to know how you feel about the end of Shannon's episode in season 2.
So
I would have loved to see a live reaction of that.
Dylan recorded it.
Okay, good.
And apparently I didn't pay off. I don't know. I thought I was going oh, but apparently both he and Nigel were like, you did nothing. You sat there. So apparently I don't know what I'm doing with my face and body, because I thought I was having a huge reaction, and apparently I did. I said apparently 7,000 times there.
Interesting. Well, yeah, as soon as like you guys said last week, like we're covering Shannon's flashback episode, I'm like, oh man, we can spoil it because it's like a 10-year-old show.
Wait,
Shannon,
hold on. Before. If you haven't watched Lost and you're following
yeah,
along for the first time on my weekly meltdown, this is your spoiler warning for
yes.
this episode, which is episode 2 or season 2, episode 6.
Yeah. So they reveal that Shannon is the smoke monster. No, I'm kidding. Shannon gets shot and killed, and Shannon is like Beth's like least favorite character. So I've been looking forward to hearing you talk about this episode. So I can't wait to hear it. That should be dropping tomorrow, right?
That's going to drop tomorrow.
Okay, great.
Very excited about it. And then I'm really looking forward to the next episode because he did tell me, and he spoiled this in the end of the episode for me. He said, I'm not going to have you guess because I'm just going to straight up tell you the next episode is the massive flashback to the other side of the place.
Oh, yeah. That's a good episode. It's
so
called
that's
The
what
Other
he said.
48 Days.
Yeah, The Other 48 Days. So that's that's next one. Yes, Adrian Celeste, actually, thank you so much. I have not watched Dragula yet, so please don't spoil it. But Dragula season 4 is on. It is on Shudder, which is a streaming website for like horror films and such. And the first week is free. So what I've been doing is waiting until the window is closed so that I can get watch the first 2 episodes for free. Excuse me. And then I'm going to pay for the rest of the season, which is like $7.
Smart.
But I'm really excited. I'm going to be covering Dragula, a couple episodes. We're going to do the first 2 episodes together, and then we're going to do an episode after the finale to cover the rest of the season and like the trajectory of it and everything. And I'm going to be, unfortunately, Liana's not going to be able to join us for that. That's really sad.
That's going to be my question is like, who are you covering it with on RHAP?
So I'm covering it with Aman as per usual,
Okay.
but Liana's not able to join. So I will actually be the full-on host for it. I'm going to attempt to fit somewhat in her shoes, but I know that is just absolutely not possible because she is literally one of the best. So I had to really dig deep and find somebody cool to be the other one. And I am not going to spoil it because I haven't spoiled it on RHAP, but we did have, I'll say this much here. Former Drag Race contestant will be joining us for both of those episodes. I'm very excited.
Very cool, very cool. Also a patron perk. If you join Patreon, you can see us cover season 2 of Dragula, where I had to work through some therapy with regards of how Leatherface makes me feel. So that's what you're missing if you're not a patron. So, yeah, okay, cool. Well, everybody have a great rest of your week, and we'll be back next week to talk about maybe the merge of Survivor 41. Who knows?
The
the
maybe merge.
Yes, the maybe merge. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But everybody have a great rest of your night. Take care, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.